Very nice to meet you. Thanks for talking to Real.com today.
Thank you.
In your opinion, what made the 1960s TV series such a hit?
The writing. They had some of the best, most legendary comedy writers of all time, perhaps, in Mel Brooks, Buck Henry, Leonard Stern, just to name a few. And I think that reflected in the show and its longevity. It's why it stood out. It's why it had a political edge. It wasn't just goofy, but it was also really funny. And I think that's what really set the bar very high for us on this.
You mentioned that you came on board after you realised that Steve Carell had been cast. How does he compare to the original Don Adams character?
No one can replace Don Adams. No one can replace Barbara Feldon, Ed Platt, you name it. So we decided not to try to replace them. That was wise. We wanted to just honor them and compliment them with our own interpretation. And I think, throughout history, from the silent movie era, Ben-Hur was a remake, Ten Commandments was a remake, and everyone is doing their impression, of the original. And you can't do a Xerox. I mean, we saw what happened to, let's say, the movie Psycho, when you try to do a frame for frame Xerox. I mean, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. So you really got to find your own original course. You have to figure out how to straddle the two and honor the source material enough so that you're pleasing the fans, but also bring your own sensibilities to it so you can, introduce this to a new generation.
So what were some of the challenges of sort of bringing this whole series, the story behind it, up to date to the 21st century?
Well, some of them were just ingrained in the fact that it was so attached to the 60s. The fact that it was born in a Cold War era. A lot of the gadgets were so iconic, but now, the shoe phone is like the ancestor to today's cell phone. The Cone of Silence was a great idea, but, needed a little bit of updating, in such a, post-Star Wars world that we live in. How do you compete with these things? And how do you, I wanted to get the 1965 Sunbeam Tiger in. I just didn't want to have a Ferrari. That's ordinary. So, how do we do all those things? How do we get them in? And we took inspiration from the location of one of the props. The actual shoe phone prop from the series is on display in the Smithsonian Institute in Washington. And that gave us the idea of how to bring all these props back.
I've noticed sort of 21st century, talking about 21st century, he rides around in a Vespa this time around. Is that because of spiraling fuel costs, or what's the reason for that?
I may be riding around in a Vespa momentarily. My gosh, I just found out what the price of gas is here in London.
It's shocking.
It's ridiculous. And we think it's bad hitting $5 in America. But anyway, no, that was just sort of, a spy using his environment, to get from one place to another. That was just happenstance. But, it became a little prophetic now. You look around. And maybe if there is a sequel, he'll be riding a skateboard. Not that funny. We'll come up with something better than that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about one final question, the swordfish gag on the film.
Yeah.
Is that a sort of play on the infamous line, missed it by that much?
Well, actually, we have
Or am I reading too much into that?
A teeny bit, but I like your interpretation. I think, because we had missed it by that much in there a couple of times, that was purely, teeing up a big joke for Alan Arkin. And Alan, I am very proud to say, loved that joke so much, he started cackling one day on the set near craft service, and I said, Alan, what's wrong? He goes, I'm telling you, Pete, the scene that was shooting that is just absolutely, this is ridiculously funny. The funniest thing I've ever done, I'm telling you, it's the funniest thing. I said, wow, that's like a huge compliment. I'm telling you, I don't know how to say this, it's funny. This is going to rival Serpentine from the in-laws. I thought, wow, if that's true, I'm honored. And I told Steve that. We both got a big kick out of that.
Well, it's a great film, and wish you best of luck. Really.
Well, thank you very
enjoyed
much.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you.